Should stand for All right, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Thank you everybody for being here. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come by. So I am Jude Missick. I am the 7th grade counselor. Also, I guess you could call me the rising 8th grade counselor as the 7th graders transition towards 8th grade. And we also have...
And I'm Rowan Tringali. I'm the current 6th grade counselor and rising 7th grade counselor.
Yep. And then our principal, Miss Ivory Brown, is in the back. Hi, Miss Ivory Brown.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
And our lead counselor, Miss Ashley Harper, is in the back. And then our 8th grade, rising 6th grade counselor, Mr. Demarest, is back there as well.
Good morning.
All right. So we have a lot to cover, and as you guys know from the name of the parent coffee today is the Rising 7th and Rising 8th grade course selection parent coffee. So a lot of information to share. We have a lot of information we have on our website as well. This is being recorded and then going to be uploaded to our website, as well as the information that is on these slides are going to be on our website as well. So you have all the information. Of course, you can reach out to me or Ms. Tringali now and moving forward with any questions about course selections or about anything going on with your child. Okay. So we have what's that?
Absolutely.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
here now.
So we have a lot of slides to get to, so we're going to get to it. But of course, if you have questions, raise your hand during the presentation. And then afterwards, if you need to ask specific questions about your child and their course selections or anything else, we will be available afterwards as well. Okay.
So this is what your Harper Park course selection info is going to look like. Your teacher recommendations are going to be found in parent view under the and student view after February 8th. So after February 8th, you're going to be able to see what your teachers have put your child in. So you're going to see English honors, history honors, science honors, math, which follows our progression, which we'll get into later, health and PE. Any current 7th graders taking a world language will see either the next one or they may have to retake it, so they'll still see like Spanish 1, for example. Then tech ed, and then for family consumer sciences for current 6th graders. So that's going to be their electives for 7th grade. So then you're going to have resource or spectrum will be mass added later by our lead counselor. And then for students receiving special education services, all courses will be determined by the IEP team. So for 7th grade, here are your required courses. You're going to notice that they all have honors. So basically all our kids are going to be put in those honors courses. So you have English, life science, U.S. history for 1865 to present, math. So math 6 will go into math 7, which is foundations of algebra. Math 7, which then will go to either pre-algebra or algebra 1. And algebra 1 is when their high school credits start, along with languages. Health and PE 7, tech ed and family consumer sciences, which is split by 1 semester each. A half block of a fine arts elective, and then an additional full block elective. And then again, you're going to have resource and spectrum split between the fine arts electives. So what's facts in tech ed? Family consumer sciences, you know, back when I was in high school, and probably you guys too, was home ec, but now they cover a lot of career-based things as well. They have a lot of hands-on projects, nutrition and wellness, child development, family resources. They talk about personal finances and taxes, textiles and fashion, so they still do that, and a lot of sewing, and then career exploration, like we said. We do talk about academies of Loudon a lot, so in 7th grade your kids will start to learn and think about MATA and academies of science and engineering. Tech ed, it's more hands-on, it's project-based, they go a lot more into STEM, they do drafting, printing, engineering. One year, I think they still do this, they made a hot air balloon, which was a really fun project for them. They study the contribution and innovations and inventions, design, construct, build models, generate and analyze data, research topics, and they work independently and they do a lot of group work. So here are some more elective options. So for the 7th graders, they'll choose one half block, which is going to be split with a resource or spectrum. So they have band and strings, chorus and guitar and art. So for band and strings, they have to be enrolled in that in 6th grade to go on to the 7th grade one. So if your kid wasn't taking, let's say they're in the music lab right now, they can't just go into band 7 next year. So they would have to choose from chorus, guitar 7, or art. Which guitar is super cool because that only starts in 7th grade. We don't have that for 6th grade. And then for the additional elective, we have communication studies, intro to computer science, Computer Science Foundations, and then the World Languages start. So we have Spanish 1 for fluent speakers, German 1, Latin 1, and French 1, and these are all high school credits as well. So we're going to go into more of the elective options. I really like communications. I feel like if I was a middle schooler here, I would have taken it. They do a lot of critical thinking activities, they do a lot of group work, and they focus on publications, yearbook, newspapers, magazines, broadcast, public speaking. I know there's one year they did a debate like between the courses, so each group had to debate their topics to each other. They develop a lot of self-confidence and public speaking skills. And that's typically taught by the English teacher if they pick up that communications class. So for world languages, a lot of kids typically do start in 7th grade, but also I tell the kids no pressure if you want to start in 8th grade or even 9th grade. But it's cool if you start in 7th grade, you're going to be done and have those 3 credits by 9th grade. So let's say if you want the advanced diploma, you have to take Spanish 1, 2, or 3, or you can take 2 languages between 4 years. So like French 1 and 2 and Spanish 1 and 2. But as long as you get those credits, you're going to receive that advanced diploma. So and when I was in high school, I took Spanish 1, 2, and 3. I believe I was done by my junior year because I didn't start till high school. Then students who started their world language in 7th grade and stayed with the same language will have the opportunity to take the AP or dual enrollment levels during their senior year, and they'll have the opportunity to earn more college credits. And then this is more for 9th grade, but you can take classes online that are the world languages. They're available for levels 1, 2, and 3 for Spanish and French. And again, this is online or in the summertime.
And if you don't mind
Yeah.
me saying, for the rising, so if you have a current 6th grader and they're going into 7th grade, it might be a little bit kind of intimidating to hear they're going to be able to take a world language. A lot of kids do take a world language in 7th grade, but there are definitely a solid amount of kids who do not. My own son's in 7th grade and didn't have him do it. He was not ready for it, didn't have like the ability the responsibility and follow through to practice it like you probably really need to do every single day. And so he's going to take one starting in 8th grade. So there's not a real big issue if you started in 8th grade, but as Mr. Ngali just said, if you wait till 8th grade to start a language, you won't be able to reach that 6th year of a language. If your child ends up wanting to do that, that's the AP college level, where you can earn college credit, unless you take a class in the summer. And taking it in the summer through Virtual Loudon, while it's a really good program, does have a lot of challenges. There's no direct instruction, and it's a lot of work condensed into a much smaller time frame. So no need to push your child into a world language in 7th grade if they're not ready. As Mr. Ngali said, Communication Studies is a really good, fun English elective class. Kind of takes the pressure off, especially if they might do an Algebra 1, which is a high school level math. Having a high school level math and the high school world language credit at the same time, a lot of kids can handle that. If your child may not be able to handle one or both of those, then it's okay doing a Communication Studies or another elective option like Computer Science, as well as, then they can also decide, maybe I do want to take a language, whatever you decide, but have that conversation with your child. Just know that there are options, and you don't have to kind of rush them into that if they're not ready.
And like the teachers understand that they're middle schoolers, but because it's high school credit, it's like the same workload that would be for, let's say, a freshman in high school. So it's a lot, but we're here to help them and push them through if they need. So computer sciences. So we have 2 options for computer science. We have an Intro to Computer Science and then a Computer Science Foundations. Intro to Computer Science, and there's no prerequisite for each. Intro is design block-based programming using Scratch. I have no idea what Scratch is. I'm not a computer science person. History of computers and computer science. They can create programs and use reasoning and problem-solving skills, and it's very activity-based. Computer Science Foundations, they develop and execute computer programs, and they use things like HTML, Python, JavaScript, and Java. I've heard more of those things, so I feel like maybe Computer Science Foundations for a start, if they want to start learning more about it. Design and build a website, use reasoning and problem solving, and again, it's activity-based.
If I may, my son is taking computer science. He had zero knowledge before the school year started. And so Mr. Stevens teaches both these classes. He directed them towards intro. So if your child has no computer science or coding experience, the intro is the one you want to take. But if they do have a certain level, then you might contact Ms. Tringali or myself, and then we can get you in touch with Mr. Stevens. Or you can email Brian Stevens directly, and he can give you what his feedback is, whether if they should start intro or computer science foundations. But if they have some experience with some of this technology, then it might be okay to start them in foundations. Sorry.
No, yeah. And then these two always confuse me. But it's good because if they take one of these in 7th grade, then the next year they're going to be like completely amazing at it. So just another option if they don't want to feel the pressure of taking the language.
So rising 8th grade, and for those of you who came in, I'll try to not be in the way of you, but you guys can see that okay. So core classes, so math, English, science, and then civics, so history class. The recommendations are being loaded in, and was it February 8th is when they're going to go live, so you'll be able to see what the recommendations are. As Ms. Tringali said, for 6th, 7th, and 8th, for English, science, and history, or in 8th grade civics, it's all honors. We do personalized instruction, personalized learning, so we don't really have an honors versus academic level here. All the kids are in honors for those 3 classes, so don't panic if you see honors and you're kind of worried about that. We'll make sure your kid is properly challenged, but it's not going to be too challenging for them. And so the recommendations for that, you don't need to worry about those recommendations for English, science, and civics. The math recommendation is going to be the biggest one that you're going to want to look at. If your child is in 6th grade in foundations, should they go, which class should they go to next? If they're in 7th grade in foundations or pre-algebra, what should they go to next? So look for those recommendations for your core classes. World languages, so if a student is currently in, let's say they're in 7th grade and they're taking world language and they're doing the first year of it, they're eligible to go to the 2nd year of a world language as long as they pass with a D- or higher, but obviously we would not recommend that if they're not necessarily ready for that next level. Certainly we always encourage you to have conversations with the teacher of that subject for your child, because they know your child's performance and knowledge maybe as well as anybody. So I would definitely encourage you to have that conversation. Of course, we want every student that is going to go into the next level of a class to be in the right class for them. So if it is not a good fit for them, we want to make sure we're not putting them into a class where they may not be able to be successful. But we also want to push kids a little bit in the right way and challenge them. If they don't think they can do it, or they're unsure, and you as a parent, I don't know if they can handle this, we would like to have your child try to push themselves as much as possible. But again, the student knows what they can handle or thinks they know what they can handle, the same with the parent or guardian. So definitely have conversations over these next couple of months while we're trying to figure this out. There's no perfect kind of blueprint for figuring out the right course for your child, but conversations and a lot of communication is usually the best way to get to the right class for your child. Course selection, so students and parents have received instructions on how to view teacher recommendations and make elective selections. We'll be communicating more information about that, especially when they go live on the 8th. And then I know we're going to be doing presentations to resources class for each student in the building, and to talk to them about what courses are available to them and how to select their courses. And then there's a process to that with a lot of dates of here's the last date to make a change to your course selections. And there's a lot involved in that, as you can imagine, so we want to make sure you guys have all the information you need as a parent or guardian, and then the student has all the information they need. And then we're all going to, me, Mr. Demers, and Ms. Tringali are all going to meet with the students. I guess Mr. Demers won't, because he's rising 6 and the elementary school will handle that. But Ms. Tringali and myself will meet with the students individually to go over their course selections for that next year, and we'll meet one-on-one with every single student in the grades that we are responsible for. And Ms. Harper will do that for her students as well. The ACP, I'm actually in the middle. I've done half of the 7th graders for the academic career plan. I went into the FACS classes and then had to go to tech ed because of the snow day situation that happened. And so I had the students start to kind of figure out maybe what options are available to them moving forward. So for all the current 7th grade parents, your child is in the process, has already gotten it, or will be getting it later this week. A talk from me, a presentation from me about the options moving forward. Ms. Tringali hit on a little bit earlier the Academies of Loudoun, and there's also other options for them like the NJROTC, Thomas Jefferson, We want to talk to them about Virtual Loud and all these programs and options for them moving forward. There's a lot out there, so it was kind of information overload for them. But I will be emailing all of the 7th grade parents, rising 8th grade parents and guardians with that information from the academic and career plan. So the academic part is what I just talked about. We also discussed the career plan. There's a website that we utilize this year. It used to be called Naviance, and then we stopped using them, and now we use something called School Links. Very similar to Schoology. I keep messing it up. I wish they'd choose different names. But School Links is the career website that we use for students, and we are starting to use this year, that they will use, unless the county changes it, for the next many years on into high school, and likely that's going to be a big part of how they find the college that they might want to attend, or the colleges they want to apply to, or the programs they want to look into for a career, or the post-high school plans. What's that?
You can find scholarships on there too.
Yep.
We
Scholarships.
also start this in 6th grade. They already know how to work the website as well.
Awesome. Yeah, the kids learn it very quickly. It's the older people that struggle with it. But it's a really good website. So anyways, just start to get used to School Links. You might have gotten, you have received emails saying, oh, you have an email from School Links, which looks like spam. It looks like it's not even affiliated with our school system, but it is. It looks like it's just junk, and it might be to some of you guys, but we like to think every time we send out a message from the UMHT, from a counselor here at school, you'll say, hey, you got a message from School Links. Just open that up and see what we say there, and then click on the link to see what we're trying to show you guys. I know it's information overload because, again, I've said it a few times. I have a 7th grader here, and sometimes Miss Avery Brown, I don't know if she's still here, I don't open her emails for the hurricane happenings. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Sunday evening already. So she is so consistently good with that, but I can't even handle it as a parent sometimes. So do your best to try to, if you have a question or you're starting to worry about, oh, what are the course selections, when's the deadline, it's probably in an email, it's probably on our website, but you can always contact us as well. And so parents and students will have until March 1st to view and make changes to electives only, but then I think April 30th is the last day for students to change it through their counselor. So typical 8th grade courses, so English, physical science, and civics, again, those are all loaded in. Every student's going to take those classes. Math with an asterisk, because it's going to be different for each student in terms of what they've taken the year before, and then what their potential is, and how hard they work, and what their skill level is. As it says down below, follows a progression. Students currently in 7th, Foundations of Algebra, will go to Pre-Algebra or Algebra 1. Students in Pre-Algebra will go to Algebra 1. Students in Algebra 1 will go to Geometry. Some will repeat Algebra 1 if they didn't necessarily do as well as they feel like they need to do. And if you're in Geometry, you'll go to Algebra 2 at Trig. So math is its own kind of thing. Health and PE 8. You'll have the students will have a full block of resource up until now. So if you're in 6th or 7th grade, you have a half block of resource, and then a half of music or art, depending on which grade you're in. And so now it's going to be a full resource block, which is what they get in high school. They call it study hall in high school, but it's a full block for them to hopefully utilize wisely. And our teachers do a pretty good job of making sure they stay on top of the students, so they're actually benefiting from having that time here and not kind of wasting it. If your child is in Spectrum, up until 8th grade, they would have had a half block of Spectrum and no resource. Now they're going to have a half block of Spectrum, half block of resource. And then there's two elective spots, which will likely be one world language and then another elective. Again, if you do not have to have your child take a world language even in 8th grade, they can wait till high school. Any questions, general questions? I should have asked that already, but raise your hand if you do have questions.
I have a question.
Yes?
So why is still only half block of Spectrum and then another half of the research in the 8th grade? Like, why we cannot have a whole block of Spectrum for those kids who are in Spectrum?
I don't know.
Because when I'm getting the feedback from kids from Spectrum, they would love to have a full block of Spectrum, and they really miss that extra 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Is it just school specific, or is it Loudoun County policy?
Is Loudoun County policy? I would guess.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
And it's because of the time the teacher has. She does all grade levels, so her whole day is filled with 6 blocks. 6th grade, a couple blocks, 7th grade, a couple blocks, 8th grade, a couple blocks.
Thank you.
Resources, by the time they get to 8th grade, it's good for them to have extra time for homework, because they might be taking 2 high school credit courses, so that extra time to go see a teacher it's beneficial.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And in high school, there's no Spectrum. There's no
What
like
is
that.
Spectrum?
Spectrum. Who asked that? the gifted and talented program. What is it called in Futura in elementary? Fusion. Sorry. Yes.
On civics and economics, is that because these are two subjects? You cover half and half a year this, half year that?
Ms. Harper, you would know this. You've been civics and economics. It's not half and half. It's like the whole year just kind of mixed in there, or is it half and half?
I think they do about half, they do half.
They do? Okay.
Because
Half and
two
half.
different
That's the best
subjects,
they
you know,
cover.
you can mix civics with economics.
They're related, I guess, right? They at least.
Well, everything is related in life.
Sure you go. There you go. Yep. Yes.
Why are we, what's with the whole honors thing? Everyone's taking honors. Because, I mean, I guess when last year in 5th grade, they suggested what types of classes that your child will have. And I noticed that on mine, everything is honors, where she was specifically for like 2 or 3 classes. And now everyone's in honors. How are we going to, I think it was either you or Ms. Tringali said earlier, make sure that individual children are challenged with workload. But how does that, because I know in some classes now there's, you know, some disruption because teacher has to go back and reteach something. So how do you differentiate between the two? Because it used to be like academics and it used to be honors. So the honors would be just a little bit more challenging
It used to
for
be
your
that
kids.
where.
In the middle school, I mean, my son, he was at Simpson, and there was academics, and it actually here, the paperwork that was online, they had an academics, and then they had an honors. So
Yeah.
what is, I guess, what's the basis behind that?
Ms. Harper, you're good at answering this question.
There is no separate curriculum for honors and academic. They're exactly the same curriculum. So having them separate is kind of misleading because there is nothing different in an honors class than there is academic. So the teachers are tasked with, like you said, challenging kids that need more challenge, supporting kids that need more support, all in the same classroom. And that really kind of came about when the kids all got their devices, because you can do a lot more personalized learning with the kids having their own Chromebooks.
How does that set them up for the next level, like in high school? Because, I mean, you do have honors and you have research, you have AP and you have dual enrollment. How does that set them up for knowing kind of what path they want to go in and how to challenge themselves more?
Well, the teachers, the 8th grade teachers in particular are really good about doing what each kid needs, and they also conference with them when it's time to pick classes, which is coming up real soon. And they talk to them about what's the difference between research and academic in science or whatever. So they are very full aware what they're signing up for when they pick those classes. And then the teachers also communicate with the parents.
So nothing is done based on merit anymore? It's more equity versus merit?
It's all the same classes. There's nothing different about them.
But can you get rewarded for, I guess, wanting to do more in a class? I mean, like
Sure.
the math class, for instance. I mean, definitely you drink through a fire hose when you take a higher math class, and you have to be prepare yourself for that.
Right, and
Not everybody
math
will
is
take that
different
class.
because that's a path, and you can take very rigorous math courses even in middle school.
So they don't have paths for other areas, like for civics or for history
Not
or
in
for
middle school.
English?
Not
Okay.
in middle school.
So it's just the middle school curriculum
Yep.
where that changes
7th
when you
grade,
get
8th
to
grade.
the, or to the high school level
Correct.
and beyond.
Math is the only thing that has got different paths.
And that has changed over the past couple of years, or has that been?
That's good.
Thank you.
Good questions. Thank you, Ms. Harper, for answering basically all those. All right, if you have other questions, we'll just, I want to get through all this stuff so we can get everybody on with their day if they need to, and then if you have specific questions, of course, ask those questions afterwards. 8th grade elective options, FACS 8, you guys can see it, Technology of Robotic Design, which is a high school level class, high school credit. Tech Ed 8, Exploratory Dramatics, so theater. Art 8, Intro to Computer Science Foundations. And then Chorus 8, Band 8, as you see there, you don't need to have been in chorus before to do Chorus 8, but you do for Band 8 and Strings 8. Need to have had the prerequisite, which was Band and Strings 7. And then Guitar 8, do not have to have previous experience in guitar, would help. And then world language, German, Spanish, French, Latin, 1 or 2, and then Spanish for fluent speakers. If you are the parent or guardian of a 7th grade student, they speak Spanish fluently, then they will learn to read and write that that language, and they can take that in 8th grade, Spanish Fluent Speakers 1. On the left, the FACS 8, Tech Ed 8, there's no prerequisites for those. Exploratory Dramatics, Art 8, Computer Science, the intro one especially, there's no prerequisite. That would probably be the one to take again if you're taking it first for the first time. The Technology or Robotic Design, there's no prerequisite, but it is high school credit, so that does start their high school GPA, so just keep that in mind. If your child's into kind of engineering type of a class and maybe kind of likes putting things together and is very creative like that, and technologically savvy, that would be a good course to take. Here it is. So earn a high school credit, factors in high school GPA, requires higher level thinking. There is limited space, usually offered for one class period unless the numbers dictate otherwise. Study of computers and microprocessors, and their applications to manufacturing, transportation, and communication systems. So again, kind of an engineering umbrella, right? So problem-solving activities. They make robots. Exploratory Dramatics, this is a good fun course for the students who like to be on stage. No requirement for them to join the drama club, though a lot of kids will do both. Limited space for that as well. High school credit bearing classes. It is great that middle school students can earn high school credits. If you have a 7th grader right now and they're taking one, you probably already see how challenging it can be. There's a lot of kids who can handle it and do it fine, and then for the kids who don't, we have another slide here coming up about expunging a grade if it proves to be too much for them this year. But it is robotics, algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2, a trig, and then any world language is a high school credit bearing class. So what is GPA? Most, if not all of you already probably know this. Grade point average, each letter grade has a corresponding numerical or number value. And so if a student gets a B in a class for the year, it's a 3.0 for that class. If they take 2 classes in middle school that are high school accredited classes and they get a B and then an A, it's going to be a 3.5 GPA. Pretty easy when it works out like that, but obviously as they get into high school, they'll take many high school classes and that factor into their GPA, which then you just add up all those GPA points, divide by the number of classes, and that's your GPA. And that's obviously a major factor into college admission and whatnot. There are 2 different types, main types of diplomas, and it's the Advanced Studies Diploma and the Standard. Here's the example of kind of what to expect in the Advanced Studies. Most students get the Advanced Studies. All of your children are currently, going to be slated to try to go for the Advanced Studies Diploma. If a student takes 7 classes a year in high school and passes all of them, they'll get 28 credits. So you see at the bottom in the middle, it says 26 total credits needed. So it's not too terribly difficult to get all the credits, regular credits you need. And then on the bottom right, the SOL verified credits. If you pass a class and the corresponding SOL, it turns into a verified credit as well. You need 5 of those. Without getting too deep into it really quickly, for English in high school, they'll take 2 English SOLs, reading and writing in 11th grade. They do have to pass both of those. If your child struggles in it or they fail it, there are many opportunities for remediation and retesting. We obviously want to make sure that they understand the material and have those skills, which usually then the SOL reflects. So it's our responsibility to make sure we give them ample opportunities to retest, reteach. And so there's so many opportunities for them to retake a test that they might need in order for graduation. But they need the 2 English. They need 1 social studies. As you can see there, it's World History 1, World 2, and then U.S. government. Excuse me, U.S. and Virginia history. Why it says government? I don't think there's a SOL for U.S. government. For math, that's just listed because it's one of the 4 classes. So for social studies, it's World 1 and 2, and then U.S. and Virginia history, the 3 SOLs. For math, it's Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. And for science, it's biology, earth science, and then chemistry. They have to pass 1 of each of those for science, and for math, it's for social science. They make it pretty easy nowadays. It used to be, I think, 9 SOLs you had to pass to get your Advanced Studies Diploma. Now it's just 5 for Standard and Advanced Studies. You do have to take, as Mr. Ngali was saying earlier, 3 years of 1 world language or 2 each of 2 different ones. For a Standard Diploma, you can graduate high school with the Standard and not have any world language credits. However, keep in mind that if your child is thinking about then applying to college, The vast majority of colleges expect and require all their applicants to have 3 years of one language or 2 each of 2. There are some exceptions, of course, but that's why we kind of steer kids to try and go for the advanced studies. Most kids who don't get the advanced studies, it's because they didn't hit the 3 years of a language or 2 each of 2, but there are some cases where they didn't have enough credits. And you see the ones highlighted, economics and personal finance, that's a 1 credit class or 2 semester classes that equal 1 credit that they have to take. All students, advanced studies or standard, have to take that, and they'll take that in high school. And then 3 electives. Lots of different things going on here: health PE, fine arts, and CTE electives. If you have a high school child, you probably know this a little bit more, but the counselor in high school is going to be tracking this, but it is also the parent guardian's responsibility to be checking this with their child and make sure they know what is expected and what is required in order to meet those graduation requirements. But usually, obviously, the counselor and the family will team together to make sure that everything's being reached for that particular diploma. Expunging grades, this is only a middle school option thing, so if your child goes to high school and takes 10th grade World History 2 and gets an F, you can't expunge it and wipe it out and retake it. You'll probably have to retake, the kid will probably have to retake it, but no expunging. It's only a middle school thing for high school credits. So if your child takes a high school credit in middle school and let's say they get a really low grade, like a D+, that is a passing grade, so that would be a count towards the GPA. But you can certainly expunge it, which means wiping it out by filling out the proper paperwork by, I think it's August 15th, and submitting it to the proper place, which for Rising 9th grade, it's to the Heritage Counseling Department. For Rising 8th, it's to the Harper Park Counseling Department, and we would then wipe out the grade. If you have a decision to make, like your child takes Algebra 1 in 8th grade and they get a B+, you don't love the B+ grade, but that is required. You have to pass Algebra 1 before you go on to geometry. That's a decision you got to make sure they retake it the next year in 9th grade. That's something, again, to talk about with your counselor, with your child, and we can help kind of get to the right decision. But that's the only time it becomes a little bit like, ooh, a B+, a B, an A-, whatever you're thinking is an acceptable grade. Do we expunge it? But then the child has to take that class over again. So that can be a lot. And if your student is not necessarily wanting to do that, then maybe keeping that grade and moving on to the next class is what you want to do. But the last thing I'll say about this is it's most important about, do they know the material, less about the grade. They could have an A-, but they're like, I'm not ready for geometry. I don't know what I really even learned in Algebra 1. I feel like I don't know it. That's where you really got to have those conversations and talk to the teacher and talk to the student. What should you do now? So there are elective videos. Our teachers did a great job of making videos about all the elective options and about their classes that they offer. Again, we're going to be emailing you guys, with information about the course selections, but it's also on the Harper Park website. When you click on school counseling, there's the Rising 7th grade course selection link, and then the Rising 8th grade course selection link. And once you do that, you'll be able to click and watch videos. So you can do that for yourself or with your child, up to you. But then there's the program of studies, which is the document that the county puts out about all the courses available. And then you look on Student View and Parent View with your child to make sure everybody approves of the selections. If you change your mind, again, you have until a certain date. I think it's April 30th, is that right?
March 1st is when they can.
Right. So March 1st is when you can change it on your own, but then after that,
Yes.
April 30th is the last date. If you say, you know what, on April 17th, you and your child are talking and you say, you know what, we want to change this class to something else, certainly reach out to us directly, the counselor directly, and we'll make the change for you up until April 30th. But after that date, there are no changes to any course selections. So new this year, Harper Park, here's, I got ahead of myself, April 30th. I looked through the slides, I promise. April 30th, if you're unsure about one of the choices, please contact your child's counselor before April 30th. So just as I was saying, it is kind of a big deal here. We are trying to be a little bit more solid on this than we have maybe in the past. And a lot of schools struggle with this because we want to make sure you and your child feel like they're in the right courses for that next year. However, changing your mind and after April 30th kind of disrupts what we do when we plan for staffing. We hire our staff based off of how many people have selected, how many kids have selected a certain class. Oh, we need more in this area, that area. And so we kind of redistribute the staff based off of what the need is. And then if we change what the need is based off of different course selections, that can disrupt what we did for staffing. So there is a reason behind it. We're not just coming up with a date just to make anybody's life miserable, but it is something that we're going to be holding to. So keep that date in mind, please.